Stuart Knight. Stuart is an award-winning entrepreneur, critically acclaimed author, and hit producer. He has written, produced, and starred in live presentations that have been seen by over 1 million people, and each year speaks internationally, helping some of the world's largest companies reach new levels of success. When he is not on the road, you may have heard him on various leading Canadian TV and radio stations, where he is often asked for his opinion on high-level communication. Stuart is the author of 2 profound books, You Should Have Asked, The Art of Powerful Conversation, and The Madness in My Mind. He also writes a blog which has over 10,000 followers. Personally, Stuart is a world traveler, an avid reader, and composes music. He is also the founder of Canada's biggest speaking extravaganza called the Top 10 event, which has garnered over 20 million media impressions. As a renegade visionary, Stuart Knight has taken gut-wrenching risks and come out on top. And today, with hilarious stories and thought-provoking insights, he shares the lessons he has learned helping people reach goals they never imagined they could attain. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Stuart Knight.
That's the best. That was the best. Wow, that has got to be like the best damn intro I have ever received in my entire life. Let's give James a big round of applause. Yeah. I've always said the MC always has the hardest job. My job is easy compared to his. So when you see him in the hallway today and when you're hanging out with him, make sure you give him a quick high five, give him a hug, a kiss in the lips, whatever you feel, just go for it with James. He's totally open to it. That scared a lot of people just now. Okay. So, before we get into today's presentation, first of all, I'm so excited to be able to be here. I'm with my people, the people in the creative industry. This is so great. You know, most often I'm speaking in the corporate market, traveling around the world doing those kinds of presentations, but I feel like I'm a creative guy. I've been in that kind of industry my whole life, and so it's nice to be with my peeps, all right? So, shout out to all of you here today, okay? Now, before we get started, though, I just want to make a quick observation, all right? So, technically speaking, where you see me standing here right now on this stage in front of all of you, this is where I go to work every single day, all right? This is my job. This is my office, right? And you've got that place that you go to work every single day. Maybe you're a graphic designer in some big building. Maybe you are somebody who goes to a studio every day. Maybe you're in a space where it's in your own home. Maybe sometimes your office is your car sometimes. Okay, it doesn't matter where it is. We all have that place that we go to work. Now, with me being a professional speaker, okay, the nature of my job is that just before I go to my work and to my office, there's always an individual who stands up and they read off my biography, right? They read off all of my accomplishments, and then everybody gives me a round of applause, and then I go to work. And I got to be honest with you, it doesn't matter where that happens, it doesn't matter how often it happens. I always find myself standing off of the sideline and I'm watching that individual backstage speak about me, and I'm always thinking the same thing. You know, I'm always looking at that person and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I'm awesome. But then I think to myself, hold on, you people are just as awesome as I am. However, I'm going to guess that never happens when you go to your job. Could you imagine that, you know, one of these days, like, you know, you're a graphic designer at some big company, let's say, and when you walk into work with your Tim Hortons coffee on a Monday morning, one of your fellow coworkers jumps on top of their desk, like, ladies and gentlemen, Cynthia Delaney has just walked into the room. I'm not sure if you know this, but she's been working for this organization now for the last 10 years. Our clients absolutely love her. She works very hard. She's very creative and talented. On top of that, she coaches the girls' hockey team on the weekend, and she's done all of this without any sleep because her husband snores. Put your hands together for Cynthia! And all of a sudden, your fellow coworkers, they all stand up and they're like, yeah, Cynthia, woo! Does that happen for anyone when they go to their job here? It doesn't happen, right? And I don't think that's fair. Why is it that just because I'm a professional speaker, I get a round of applause every time I do my job, and you guys never get a round of applause when you're doing what you're doing? And think about the great things you're doing. You're in the creative industry. You are bringing smiles to the faces of so many people. You are enlightening people. You are helping other people be creative. You're pushing people's limits. And of course, outside of the creative industry, in this room, we've got great moms and great dads, great brothers, great sisters, great aunts and uncles. We've got people who dedicate time to their church or their synagogue, their mosque, their temple. We've got people in this room who do coach the girls' hockey team on the weekend with no thanks whatsoever. And all those reasons and so many more, I believe that everybody in this room deserves a round of applause. So, whenever I start a presentation off, I always want to make sure we're on the same page, okay? You've given me a round of applause. Now, it's your turn. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is going to be fun. All right, we're going to split the room up right down the middle, okay? This is going to be one side over here. This is going to be the other side over here. You're going to have to choose what side you're on. If you're with your friend, it's always fun to split the two of you up, okay? So this is going to be one side over here. This is the other side over here. I'm going to start with you guys here in a second, all right? In a second, I'm going to count to 3. After I count to 3, together, we are going to give all the people on this side of the room a round of applause, okay? In fact, we're not just going to give them a round of applause. We're actually going to give them a standing ovation. Something most people go their entire lives and they never get, and that is not fair. Okay, now, folks, on this side of the room, when you're getting this standing ovation from all of them on that side of the room, your job's very easy. All you have to do is look back at all of them with a very smug look on your face. And the whole time, just think to yourself, yeah, you're damn right. I deserved that a long time ago, okay? Your job's easy. Now, folks, if there's anyone on this side of the room who thinks I'm joking, I'm not. Even if you're eating yogurt right now, I am not joking. She was so ready to be out, I can read an audience member just like that. You are into this, and if not, I'm going to make fun of you the rest of my presentation, okay? So, on the count of 3, we're going to stand up and give all of these amazing people on this side of the room a huge standing ovation for all your hard work, for being so creative, for making a difference in the lives of other people. Let's show them the love. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Yeah. Woo. All right, grab a seat, grab a seat. Not bad, not bad. That was good. You especially. That was impressive. I like that. All right, folks, that wasn't so bad. On this side of the room, I think we have something called numerical superiority, all right? There are more of us on this side of the room, so that means we're now about to go that much louder. We're now about to give all of you guys a standing ovation for all of your hard work, making a difference in the lives of other people, being creative, taking risks, overcoming all kinds of challenges. Here we go. Let's say it so loud, we get kicked out of this theater. Here we go. On the count of 3, some people are, okay, wow, all right, go. Yeah. Woo! You people! You people! Woo! Yeah! All right, grab a seat. That was impressive. That was impressive. Oh, I don't think I've ever not had to count to 3. So people in the middle are like, yeah, I'm in, whoa! It's like, these are the people who have been drinking, just so you know. Just a heads up. You know what, folks? Thanks for doing that. I don't believe I deserve a round of applause any more than any one of you. We're all working hard at our jobs, trying to make a difference. So good on you for being here. Let's have fun. And like, I really mean that. Good on you for being here. Because I'm not sure if you know this, but there are a lot of people who RSVP to be here. In fact, there's about 600 and something people who actually RSVP to be here. That would mean every seat in this theater would be taken. However, some of them, you know what? It's just too cold out today. You know what, maybe next year I'll go. And I just don't know why it is that my business doesn't get ahead. I can't figure out why I'm not as successful as everybody else. I don't know. I think we've found the common denominator here. So you know what, you're not those people. You chose to be here. And of course there are individuals who have legitimate excuses to not be here. But for the most part, I find that when people say they want something, they say they want to be successful, they don't actually do what it takes to be successful. And I want to speak to you today about that. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you really are creative, and if you really want to be an artist, or if you really want to be someone in the creative field, someone who actually has a big impact in the lives of other people, you have to realize that that's your calling. And you have to realize that you have to do anything it takes to get there. Because at the end of the day, you know, I've always been a big believer that some things are meant to be. The bees, the honey, the gin, the rummy, the English, and sometimes how they are kind of funny. The warm feeling I get in my tummy on the days when it is sunny. Some things are meant to be. Eloquently, constructively, precisely, and decisively. Some things are meant to be. I mean, in the morning, do you crave a beer? No. You drink tea. Kids play in trees, stomach turns on stormy seas, sober driver gets the keys. You can't have a beach without the breeze, and you can't have a bank without the fees. And as I trip through my A, B's, C's, oh, and my D's, just know that some things are meant to be. But you see, unfortunately, this rule did not seem to apply to me. You see, my daddy was a salesman. Not a mailman, but door to door is where he would go, man. On his feet and with his case, shaking hands, always putting on a smiley face. You see, there wasn't much time to waste. Because as an immigrant with an accent and about 2 cents, it's kind of hard to find that hammer to make that dent. And my mother, God love her, worked her fingers to the bone, walked home alone, always kept a loving tone. And you see, they came to Canada so that they could make better days and break free from the decay of delays that make a sane person go crazy. Took a risk and came to a new country, had 3 boys and 1 was me. And in the entire history of our family, no one had ever gone to school, you see. Okay, well, more specifically, no one had ever got a degree. You know those kinds of things you have to get to make the money? Ah, damn, the world is so funny. And so a degree is what I got. That was the reason they came here, so I at least have to give it a shot. And a degree is what I got. And now finally, someone in our family had a shot. A chance to make the team, a chance to get the green. Upon graduation, I was keen. And my mommy and daddy, they said to me, "Sonny, your future is sunny, so tell me, what plan do you have for thee?" And as much as I wanted to please, you see, I had this little trick hiding up my sleeve. You see, ever since I was a little boy, I used to go to bed at night and lay quiet without making a noise. I would close my eyes, and I would drift out of my body, and I would enter the sky. Across the blue and beneath the land, with legs kicking back and outstretched hands, and every single night a different place I would go. It could be the pyramids or the Alaskan snow, but the destination was always the same. I could hear it in the distance. It was calling my name, because this game in my heart was not something I could tame, because when it comes to your heart, there's no one to blame. And I'm flying now, coming to the end of my journey. One more flip, one more click, one more spin, one more twist, one more dive, one more soar. And whatever it was, I would always say, "Just give me one more." And then eventually I would arrive in a place that I would live and a place that I would die in. Because every moment there was always a winning moment for me. It was the place I belonged. It came easily and freely and nicely. And that happens to be the place where you see me. And that's not the place I was supposed to be. Because you see, when you come from a family with very little money, they don't think it's very funny. When you take opportunity and spread it across a stage for the world to see. But what am I supposed to do if that is all there is to me? Forget about a dream I've been having since I was 3? Some things are meant to be. And today, that is something that I absolutely know. So let me ask you, my friends, are you ready to start the show? I'm going to guess that many of you have felt that way when you're in the world of creativity, and you think to yourself, do I have what it takes, or should I do this because I know that certain people may not agree with my decisions, or should I do anything in life? Should I move to that new country? Should I get into that relationship? Should I get out of that relationship? Whatever it might be, we're continuously filtering as to what is and what is not meant to be. But I think that everybody in this room, deep down in their heart, they know what's truly meant to be for them. And today, I want to help get you even that much closer to that thing for yourself. And if you're doing it, I want to inspire you to do it even better than you've ever done before. And as you heard James say, today what I want to speak to you about is 5 decisions that I say all winners make. And sometimes I don't like using that word winner, because people think that when I say the word winner, I'm talking about, you have to be someone who makes a lot of money, or you have to be somebody that goes out there and has to become famous. I'm not saying that. If that's important to you, that's great. But what I'm saying to you today is when it comes down to winning, I want to inspire you to be as happy and as successful as you can possibly be doing the things that make you so joyful. That really is that all it comes down to, and it's different for every single person in this room. And my goal is to A, get you thinking about things you may not never think about, and number 2, B, to get you really thinking about things that you have thought about, but hopefully in a different way. Okay, so the 5 decisions all winners make. Now, these are things that I have had to do in my own life to be the individual standing up on this stage or running a successful company. As a bit of background, you know, I'm 44 years old right now. I know I look like I'm 43, but I'm 44. Everyone makes that mistake, don't worry. Anyway, yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for 20 years and ran a pretty successful business. And in that time, I've really learned that not just myself, but the leaders that I've worked with in business and the people that I've worked with who are creative, those individuals, it's incredible to me how they always seem to do these 5 things consistently. And if you can just add these 5 things to your life, you will see how much it changes your game. Okay, so the first decision that all winners make is that they choose to take pride in what they do before they do it. Whereas people who want to win, so often what they'll do is they wait for someone to tell them how awesome they are, and then they start taking pride in what they do. Or they wait for someone to give them an award. They wait for somebody to say, "You're amazing, you've really touched my life. That painting is incredible." And then all of a sudden they start working a little bit harder. Whereas the ones who are really legendary, the ones who go that much further in the work that they do, are the ones who stop before they start. They actually take pride in what they do before they start it, and then by doing that, they actually do it better than they would have before. You know, one of my favorite quotations is from Martin Luther King when he says, "If a man is called upon to be a street sweeper, he should sweep those streets as Michelangelo painted, as Beethoven composed music, or as Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep those streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth pause and say, 'Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well.'" And I've always loved that because we know that we live in a world where so many individuals, you give them the job of having to sweep the streets, oh man, watch how good of a job they will do. They will do just the bare minimum. The mayor knows this. He hires all these people. He's the one kind of going, "God, could I just put a little more effort into it? We're giving you a great job, great benefits package," and they just sweep the streets. However, there are individuals out there that when they look at what they do, individuals who are sweeping those streets, these are the individuals that will sometimes stop and they think about the people who will be affected by the way that they sweep those streets. So they might look at that park bench and think, if I make it nice and clean around that, I might invite a couple of young people on a first date where they might actually share their first kiss on a bench that I made look beautiful. Or if I clean the streets around this neighborhood and make them look so gorgeous and clean, I might make people want to come out of their houses and want to come and speak to each other and create community. And we all know that statistically when people have strong communities, there's lower crime and people are more safe. So all of a sudden now that street sweeper is saying, I'm actually making people fall in love by sweeping these streets. I'm actually making the world safer and the world a better place because of the way I choose to sweep those streets. And it's because the way he or she sees the people being affected by the way they do it. And I see so often people in any industry not taking that time to stop before they start and to think about who they affect. You see this in the restaurant business. Oh my goodness, restaurant and bar industry drives me crazy. You're at a bar, you're sitting at a table, and the server comes over to the table and says, excuse me guys, listen, I just want to ask, are you done for like last call or do you want one more drink? And everyone's like, well, you know, we've only had like 8 each. So like, let's just, one more? Yeah, cool. So, yeah, sure, give us one. They go, they get the drinks, they bring them back to the table. Everyone goes, cheers, and you take your first sip, and all of a sudden, the lights come up on in the restaurant, the music stops, people start spraying down things and wiping tables next to you, putting up chairs next to your table, and you're looking around thinking, did they say last call? Or did they say, let's get the hell out of here? And you wonder how much pride that person takes in their job. I mean, these are the individuals who we all know the way that they see their job is, I just need to get out of here. I've got a party to go to. I've got some friends I want to see. I want to see my girlfriend. They're not actually stopping and asking themselves, I wonder if there's people at that table who might be having a conversation that's life-changing. Or maybe someone over here is having a conversation at their table where they're just about to start a new business. And I'm now going to go and interrupt it because I am more important. They're not stopping and taking pride in what they do. And I've seen this as a stage performer, oh my goodness, so many times over the years. It's amazing to me how many performers I've had to work with on stage who I am so embarrassed to work with. I'm embarrassed to work with because everything needs to be absolutely perfect for them to do a good job at what they do. You know, they can stub their toe in on the way to work. They're like, I don't want to do the show tonight. Or they get there and they got a little tickle in their throat. I'm so sick. I think I'm so sick. I can't do the show tonight. Or my favorite are the people who look through the curtains. This is my favorite. They look through the curtains and they're like, God damn it. There's like 4 people out there. What's the sense? And then they go out there and they're like, yeah, they do the lines and they stand over here. Yeah, let's just get through this. And then they go and they, oh yeah, 4 people, yeah, hardly clapping, thank you. And then they leave. And I've always been embarrassed to be on those stages with those people, because when I'm on stage with individuals like that, I realize that they're not taking the same pride that I'm taking. And because I'm giving it everything I've got, even if there are 4 people in the crowd, I'm looking stupid because I'm not vibing with them because they're doing it on a different level. And people who take pride in what they do, they know exactly what I'm talking about, whether they're on stage, or whether they're managing people, or whether they're in politics, or whether they're a teacher. And this is something that I want you to get you really thinking about, because when we think about the people that we affect, we do it differently. And because that's what I've always done as a person who goes on stage, and this morning was no different. Every single time before I go on stage, I always close my eyes and I always picture you. Okay, I gotta find that one quiet space in the day. Usually I'm in the shower, nice hot shower, I close my eyes. I think about you guys in the shower. Do you guys know that? That's weird. Okay, but I think about you guys in the shower, and I think about who you really are. I don't just see you as a bunch of people from Richmond Hill or the GTA. I see you as individuals who have lives, who have friends, and the kinds of people that you sit around and have dinner with at the Thanksgiving dinner table. I picture you as individuals who have fears and concerns and things that you have goals that you want to achieve. I think about all these different things, and the more I think about you as a real person, the more I begin to swell with pride. The more excited I get to do my job, the more I begin to think, wow, how lucky am I that I get to speak to you today. And you can think that's just, professional talk, right? That's just, a keynote speaker lip service. Yeah, that's your choice. You can think that. Or you can believe me. And I can assure you that when I stop and I actually think about you, the more excited I get to do it. And nothing can stop me. No cold, no stub of the toe. In fact, I'll never forget one time as an example of this. I was running on stage during one of the musicals that I'd written. And as I was running on stage, there was an actor who was running off stage. And any of you actors in the room, you know that when you're running on and off stage, quite often it's dark, and you have just what's called glow tape. And the glow tape is what directs you to where you have to go. You can't see anything else. Now, this actor had taken the wrong exit off stage, and he was now running right towards me in the dark. And this is where I should point out that he's the exact same height as I am. 2 men running towards each other in the dark, the exact same height. Where do you think this is going to go? So we run into each other, and bam, his head hits me right in the face. And I go flying back, and I couldn't even figure out what had just happened. And all of a sudden, I thought I just run into one of the cement poles that's on the outskirts of the theater. And it's true, it's right there. And he starts whispering in my ear, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And by the way, he's fine because he hit me with his forehead, the hardest part of the body. Okay? In fact, but he hit me right underneath my eye. And all of a sudden, I ran on stage. I'm like, no worries, I'll just get through the pain. And I could just, as the lights were coming up, I could feel the blood just coming down the side of my face. And I'm like, okay, you know what, folks, we're going to have a quick intermission right now. Even though there is no intermission in this show, I thought now would be a good time to have one. And I go off stage, I look into the mirror, and I realize it's bad. And as I look into the mirror, I thought to myself, man, this is really bad. Now, anybody, I think, in this room would agree that a lot of people could have easily made an excuse in that situation. They could have sent somebody else on stage and said, well, you know what, we've had a very unfortunate situation. It's an unexpected accident. Stuart's not going to be able to do the rest of the show tonight, so we will reimburse you or whatever. They would say something like that. And when people said to me, hey, you know what, should we just cancel it? And I was like, no way. No way are we canceling the show. And the reason I said no way was because I'd already done the exercise. I'd already thought about the audience. I'd already thought about their fears and their concerns and the things that they were excited about. I couldn't let them down now. You've got to kill me to not go on the stage. And now because I'd grown up boxing my whole life, I knew there was something I could do. You see, we had surgical tape that held our microphones in place. So I just took the surgical tape, cut, tape my eye closed, hurt like hell, went on stage and finished the show. And then later on that night, I went to the hospital and got 4 stitches above my eye. Now, the point is that when you are excited about the people that you're doing work for, it changes the way you do it. And it doesn't matter what you do. You know, I was just speaking to a bunch of people in the hair salon industry, and it's their job to sell hair products into hair salons, okay? And I said to these people, I said, if you want, you can walk into that hair salon and you can say, oh, hi, I've got this really great product. You should buy it. Your customers are going to really like it. You can do that. I said, or you can stop, and you can just think about the people that you're having an impact on with your product. I said, if it was me, I would imagine some woman walking into that hair salon one day, sitting down in the chair, getting her hair done with your product. And when she walks out of the hair salon that day, she catches a little image of herself in one of the reflections on a window, and she thinks, wow, I look amazing. And she thinks, I should call the girls. We should go out for some drinks tonight. So she calls the girls, let's go out for drinks tonight. They say yes, they go out for drinks. They're sitting at the bar, they're having a little conversation. And because she's feeling so attractive, she allows herself to hold her gaze with that man just a little bit longer than she normally would. And because he gets that, he gets more confidence than he would normally would, and he gets up and he comes down and says hello. They start talking, they start chatting, having a good time. All of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, they're now on their first date. And then 2 dates, 3 dates, and a few years down the road, now they're married and they have children. And I said, if you picture that, you're going to walk into that hair salon. You're no longer going to say, oh, I've got this really great hair product. You should buy it. Your customers will like it. You're going to walk into that hair salon now and say, I've got a product here, and if you don't buy it, future babies won't be born. So it all comes down to the way we see what we do and how it impacts the lives of other people. So let me ask you, do you make films, or do you help people see the world in a different way? Do you paint paintings? Or do you help people get over depression? Do you write songs? Or do you help people fall in love? Do you manage people? Or do you help your community become happier? What do you really do? And when you see what you really do, you'll do it differently than you've ever done it before. Stop before you start. Because when you stop for 5 seconds, you'll start in a completely different way. Always think about who you do it for, not why you do it. Do it for them, not just for yourself. The second decision that all winners make. By the way, if you're taking notes, good for you. If you're not, totally fine. Okay, so, but I love photographic memory. That's awesome. So, the second decision all winners make is, now you guys have heard about this, but I got to talk about it, okay? Second decision all winners make is they overcome their fear. Specifically, they do it as a daily routine. In fact, more specifically, fear is not a joke that they are willing to play on themselves. And this is a joke that people are playing on themselves every day. And I always think that fear is such an interesting subject. It's amazing we never talk about it, and yet it has such a big role in our lives. In fact, did you guys know that you're only born with 2 fears? Every person is born with a fear of loud noises and falling over. These are instinctual fears. They help you survive. Every other fear you have is something you've learned from someone else. And those things that you've learned to be afraid of are going to stop you from being as creative as you can possibly be and being just the best that you can possibly be. And why don't we talk about fear, right? I mean, it's not like when you see your friends and you're having a catch-up and you're chatting with them, you don't say to your friends, hey guys, good to see you. So listen, what's scaring the crap out of you these days? No one says that to their friends, right? If you said that to your friends, they'd probably come back and say, you are scaring the crap out of me these days. But why don't we talk about fear? It's like outer space. We never talk about outer space, right? And we're in outer space right now. I always find that really interesting. I'll drive in my car sometimes down the road, and I'll think, I am driving a car in outer space. This is amazing. You know, I get to the lights, I just want to say to the person next to me, can you believe this? It's crazy, right? We're both driving cars in outer space. That's when I put the window up, call the cops. I get it. But why don't we speak about it? Now, the thing is, it's even funnier about fear. That the fact that we don't speak about it, what's even funnier is that it's not even real. It's a total belief system. I mean, even the dictionary definition proves that. Okay, the definition of fear is the unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something will cause pain or threat. So even the dictionary definition says it's all made up. And it's exhausting, isn't it? Isn't it exhausting to keep on making up these fears and to be living by it all the time? You know, how many people in this room have ever made up a story about someone you've met only to find out that that story wasn't actually true? Never. Yeah, never, right? Okay. But I know sometimes when you find yourself being asked these questions, your arm just, I don't know what it is. It's like an affliction. I was born with this as a kid. It just doesn't go above my head. It's really embarrassing, actually. Just do that. I promise you I won't pick on anyone. Let's try this again. How many people in this room have ever made up a story up about someone that they've met just to find out that that story was not true? Still never. Okay. So we've all done it. We've all found ourselves in that situation, right? And, you know, it's amazing to me how it just proves that our brain can get so caught up in these stories in our head only to find out that they're not true for other people, but they're also not true for ourselves. And my God, it is so tiring. In fact, did you guys know that statistically it's been proven that 9 out of 10 things that you worry about never actually come true? 9 out of 10 things. And of course, that leaves certain people in the audience right now thinking, oh my God, I wonder which the one thing is going to be. And so look, here's the way to think about fear, all right? If you were supposed to be afraid of something, every single person on the planet would be afraid of it. Think about that. If it was a biological necessity, okay, for everyone, if you're afraid of spiders or death or public speaking or walking up and speaking to someone who's attractive at the bar or trying out a new creative piece on stage, if you're really afraid of doing that, well then if that was a biological necessity, everybody would be afraid of that. And since we know that not everyone is, then that just means that we've chosen to be afraid of that thing. Because when it comes to biological necessities, everyone does it. It's like oxygen, right? It's not like some people do it and some people don't. It's not like some people are out there like, yeah, I tried oxygen. Yeah, it just doesn't work for me. I don't like it so much. Yeah, it gives me gas, a little bit of gas. Not liking it, yeah. Everybody breathes oxygen. We have to do it to survive. But we do not have to be afraid of all these things that we make up in our heads. And some of the things that we're making up in our heads are getting really quite insane these days. I mean, you've seen all these crazy phobias that are out there now, right? Here's a couple of my favorite phobias. Ergophobia. You know what that is? That's the fear of going to work. Yeah. Some of you suffer from that fear on Monday mornings. Right? Here's another one. Paganophobia. You know what that is? That's the fear of beards. Yeah. People just don't want to be in the company of people with beards. Here's another one. I love this one. Dutch-ophobia. What do you think that's a fear of? Dutch people. It's a thing. Real fear of Dutch people. I'm convinced, actually, that's the reason Amsterdam legalized marijuana before everybody else. Right? It's like, all these tourists, we've got to give them something to take the edge off. They're so afraid of these Dutch people. Okay, here's like my all-time favorite, last one. Euphobia. All right? Euphobia is the fear of good things happening to you. Yeah, you meet somebody who has this fear, and you're like, how's your day going? They're like, it's awful. I'm like, why? Oh, I just got my dream job and met the woman of my dreams, and I just won the lottery today. It's the worst day of my life. And these are real things. And of course, I'm joking around a little bit, but we have to ask ourselves, are we going to let these silly ideas in our heads stop us from being the best that we can possibly be? When you find yourself being afraid of something, I want you to think about doing the one thing that all winners do. People who are most successful or who are most happy in life, here's what they do every single time. It's the easiest exercise that anyone can do. You look at that fear, and you have to ask yourself two questions. What will I stand to gain by not being afraid of that thing? Question number two. What do I stand to lose by continuing to be afraid of that thing? And you ask yourself those two questions, and it will completely change the way you see that fear. And all of a sudden, you've now given yourself every single reason to eliminate it from your life. Fear is a joke. And it's just a joke that you have to ask yourself whether you are or you are not going to play on yourself. You're only supposed to be afraid of two things: loud noises and falling over. And so if you really want to be the greatest artist or the greatest manager of people, or if you want to be the greatest entrepreneur, every single time you find yourself stopping from moving forward because of some sort of fear, ask yourself whether or not it's even real, a biological necessity. What can I do to get around it? And more importantly, what do I stand to gain by being afraid, or by no longer having this fear? And what do I stand to lose by continuing to be afraid? And that is the second decision all winners make. They will not play the joke of fear on themselves. And we all know the cliche line. When we die one day, just before we do, we're never, ever going to pat ourselves on the back for not doing things because we were afraid. We're only going to regret it. The third decision all winners make. Everybody still with me? Yeah, all right. Having fun with you guys. Thank you. So, now this is an interesting one. The third decision all winners make is that they choose to set high demands on their creativity. And it's funny because I talk about this with my corporate audiences. Now all of a sudden I'm speaking to people in the creative industry, but it's different for you because I think that what you have to realize is that I'm talking about the idea of setting high demands on your creativity. Most people who fall into the creative industry, they go in and they just do creative. They don't set high demands on creative, and I want to show you the difference today. You see, the way that we set high demands on our creativity is by asking ourselves questions that most people don't ask themselves. An example of that was when I first wrote my very first motivational show. It was a show for young people, for high school students. And I asked myself a question that I knew that I had to ask myself when I first wrote that show. And I said to myself, what do I need to do in order to make this the #1 motivational show for high school students in the country of Canada? And you see, the second I asked myself that question was the second my brain said, oh, I don't even know. And I said, well, okay, and I asked it again, and then my brain started giving me answers. So my brain, the first thing it said, well, go onto the internet and see what everyone else is doing. And so when I went onto the internet, I started going to all these different websites, and I started going to these youth websites, and I kept noticing that on all the websites, it kept saying that if you know, there's these posting boards, if you know of anybody who would be really great for our conference, somebody who would add value, please let us know. We'd love to get your feedback and your recommendations. Well, that was the day that I chose to become a little creative, and that was the day I became a guy named Tony. And Tony really liked this guy, Stuart Knight. Wow, so much so, I couldn't even believe it. Every single day, he would spend hours out of his own time going to all these websites, going to the posting boards, and telling people how great this guy, Stuart Knight, was, and how much value he would add to their conference. And what was even great was Tony had Stuart's contact information. So he would just always leave that behind. And of course, my phone eventually started ringing. And when the phone started ringing, I actually still had to be good. I still had to be able to make the sale. And then when we started doing the actual show, we had to be good on stage, which we were. And that show grew and grew and grew, and eventually it was a show that was picked up by Coca-Cola and toured nationally across the country of Canada for 3 years straight. And none of it would have ever happened had I not taken that creative leap to do something that no one in my competition was doing. Second example, I wrote a motivational musical one time, and this is something that most people who have a degree in business and economics do. It's a very normal segue when you come out of school. And so I wrote a motivational musical, and I thought to myself, I asked myself the question again, what do I need to do in order to have a musical that becomes an alternative to the bar scene in Toronto on Saturday nights? Because I wanted to have this show play every single Saturday. And I found out very quickly that theaters in Toronto will not rent out their theater to you once a week, every single Saturday. So I thought to myself, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And the more I kept saying, what am I going to do? All of a sudden, my brain eventually said, Stuart, it's obvious. You have to live in a theater. Duh. And so I went around and I found this dilapidated 2,600 square foot loft downtown Toronto, broken windows, ceiling was caving in. I said, it's perfect. So we took over this loft, fixed the windows, fixed the ceiling, painted the entire place, built the stage, built the lights, built the sound system. And before you knew it, I found myself on Saturday nights saying to an audience of 100 people, thanks for coming to the show, folks. Have a good night. They would leave. I'd go to the washroom, brush my teeth, and go to bed. And once again, that would have never happened had I not been willing to ask myself the questions that no one else was asking. And that show ran for 4 years straight. And to this day, no one's ever done that in the city of Toronto. Now, I can give you examples of myself, or I can give you examples of other people. Picasso, was he creative? No, not bad, right? However, was he creative always? No. He was a human being like any one of us, and he wasn't always creative. And because of that, he had to find out how to be creative sometimes. So when he came to a point when he was making a painting, or painting a painting, you make paintings, just so you know, you just make them. It's like they're puzzles. You put them together. Painting a painting, right? He would get to moments where he didn't know what to do next. Now, some people in those situations are like, well, I just wait for the creativity to come back. But no, Picasso had a high standard of creativity, so he would ask himself, what could I do right now to get the creativity back? And when he would ask himself that question, quite often what he would do is he would take his shoes off, put them on the opposite feet, and go for a walk. And by doing that, he put himself into a situation where he made himself feel slightly uncomfortable and made his brain go into places it wouldn't normally go. You see, the brain is such an amazing thing. It's just that it's one of those things that people aren't using as much as they possibly can. It's this amazing resource. It follows you everywhere you go. You can tap into it anytime you want. But it's just waiting for you to do it. You know, I fly a lot, usually every single week in different places around the world. And one of my favorite things is to help ticketing agents find answers to questions that they think they don't have the answer to. So I'll go into find myself quite often in an airport and I say, hi, listen, I know that's crazy. I need to get to Los Angeles and I don't have a ticket yet, but I do need to get there today. And the person comes back and goes, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Knight, but there is no way that's going to happen. All the flights are booked and it's too late now. Sorry, you have to come back tomorrow. And I say, no, I know absolutely, and I agree with you. Always be friendly, okay? Never get angry. They're not going to find you an answer to the questions you want answered, okay? Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I get that for sure. But if there was a way to get to Los Angeles today, what would that actually look like? And they go, I'm not sure if you just heard me, sir, but it turns out that all the flights are booked and you will have to come back tomorrow. I say, yeah, no, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Busy day today, for sure. Now, listen, but if there was a way to get to Los Angeles, just what would it look like? If there was one, I know there isn't, but if there was a way. Now, of course, for them to come back and tell me again that there is no way starts making them look silly, and they know they can't repeat it again. So they go, okay, well, I mean, you would literally have to go in the opposite direction for one of your first flights. I'm like, oh, go on. And they say, well, then you'd have to go south below Los Angeles. I mean, you're going in a crazy direction. Oh, do tell. And then before you know it, they're like, and they're like, well, wow, I guess, well, you could do this. And then this is one of those moments where they're using this beautiful thing called the brain. Everybody has one. Not everybody uses it. And it's amazing to me how often I meet people in business or artists that want to get ahead, they want to make more money, they want to be successful, and they don't realize they're not asking themselves the questions to make the brain do the amazing thing it's meant to do. The brain is an incredible thing. I mean, the brain put a man on the moon. I mean, the last time I checked, it's really far away. And do you know what the average age was of the people working at NASA when they put the man on the moon? 26. Yes, millennials are amazing. They put a man on the moon, all right? Or do you know that when a plane is in the sky and it's fully loaded with luggage and people, do you know it's 175,000 pounds? 175,000 pounds. The people who are afraid of flying love that statistic. Right? But if a brain can do these kinds of things, I'm pretty sure it can find some creative solutions to some of the challenges you're facing. I'm pretty sure it can find a creative way to have people buy your art, a creative way for you to manage people, a creative way for you to get a company to take notice of you. I mean, just ask it. I mean, let me prove to you that this is what the brain does. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions right now. Just answer give me your answer in the back of your head, okay? Just think of your answer in the back of your head. Okay, what's 2 plus 2? In the back of your head. Some people are like, it's 4, I got it first. All right, next question. What is your phone number? Say it in your head really quickly. Phone number, go. Right? You know it, you don't have to think about it, right? Think about the name of the Prime Minister of Canada. I'll give you a couple extra seconds on that one if you like. Hint, he's the good-looking guy, right? No, I'm not the Prime Minister of Canada, but thank you. That's nice. Okay, now, let me ask you, so you just see what the brain does, right? You ask questions, it automatically comes up with answers. Let me ask you some questions now that the brain doesn't normally have to think of, okay? Think of your answer in the back of your mind, okay? You're locked in a room. You have to get out of that room, but the door is locked, but your life depends on it. You need to get out of that room. In your brain, what's another way of getting out of that room? Think of your answer quickly. Got to get out of that room. What's another way of doing it? Okay? Now, who here just thought about going out the window? Okay, many people. How many people here thought about going through the ceiling, up over the other side, and coming down onto the other side? Oh, there's some creative people in the room, okay? Who here thought about picking the lock, trying to pick the lock and get out that way? Okay, just a couple criminals in the room, okay, awesome. How many people here, seriously, how many people here thought about just smashing the door down? All right, these are the angry people, okay. And you know what? Obviously, we all had these different answers, but look what happened, right? Everyone's hands going up, and you all thought about an answer to a question you don't normally think about. You just proved that the brain will always come up with an answer that it's being asked to find. It may not always find it straight away, but it will eventually find it. So if you said to yourself, what's something I've never actually done in order to get noticed by other people with the art that I do? Your brain will be like, well, that's an interesting question, and you'll get the answer. Or what is something I've never done to get an interview with that organization? Or what is something I've never thought of to do in order to engage the team that I manage? And all of a sudden you start asking yourself those kinds of questions, and your brain will start giving you answers you've never had. And that's what true leaders in life and the most successful people, they do. They just ask questions no one else is asking. There was a guy not too long ago when there was a big layoff at Yahoo in the creative side of Yahoo, and he lost his job, and he knew that all the people at Yahoo were going to go out there, and they're now going to try to find the same kinds of jobs that he's trying to find. So he knew he had lots of competition in New York City. So he asked himself, what can I do that all the other people who just got let go of aren't going to do? And that was when he went out and he got his resume printed as a sandwich board. And he put the sandwich board on and stood on Park Avenue in New York City, and he printed 2,000 copies of his resume and handed them out as flyers all day. By the time he got home, he had 220 messages waiting for him. Within 2 weeks, he was the vice president of marketing for the New Jersey Devils. What happens when you ask yourself questions that people aren't even asking? Seinfeld, not bad. They did okay, right? They got kind of okay results with that sitcom. Do you know they asked themselves, what is a joke that will make every single comedian around this table laugh out loud? Because that was the standard they set. A joke in Seinfeld wouldn't become a joke in Seinfeld unless it made every single comedian laugh out loud. That was the standard they created for themselves. I've done this with my own self. When I used to write musicals, I've written 2 different musicals. Every time I'd write a song or a slam poem, or every time I'd write a monologue or a dialogue, at the end of it, and after I'd read through it and I'd said this is a finished product, I'd always ask myself this question. If the audience member only heard this one song during the show, could they say to themselves that that was worth the price of admission? And that was a standard I set for myself with that monologue or that dialogue, everything. And if the answer was no, I rewrote the song. And I kept working on it until I got to that point where I said, if someone only hears this one song tonight, they will say that was worth the price of admission. Any of the writers in the room, when you are writing, always write as if the reader is bored. Always write as if the reader's bored. Because if you say to yourself, the reader's bored, you're going to step your game up. You make yourself be more creative than you normally would. And in Canada, we need to start asking ourselves the kinds of questions that the rest of the world is not asking. Because what we're doing is we keep asking ourselves the same questions in the creative industry. A good example of this is I was talking to a friend of mine who's a pretty successful comedic actor. And he said to me, you know what, Stuart, when I'm doing auditions in Toronto, it's so funny. I get up there in the panel behind the table, they always say to me, okay, yeah, go ahead, do your thing. Prove to us that you are the next Jim Carrey. And he says, then when I get flown into New York City for an audition, I get up in front of the panel and they say, okay, go ahead, prove to us that you are not the next Jim Carrey. And that's the difference. You see, what they're doing in the States is they're saying to themselves, what is something that no one's ever seen? And in Canada, we're so quick to say, what works? And what can we do to repeat it? So you have to ask yourself, when you're being creative, what is something no one has ever seen? What am I doing that no one has ever even thought of? And if you do that, your brain will start coming up with answers that will set a higher standard for your creativity. Do not allow yourself to play small. Always play it big by asking yourself the questions no one else is asking. And those are the first 3 decisions everyone who is a true winner really does make. Number 1, they take pride. They stop before they start. They take pride in what they do before they do it, because they know who they're doing it for and how they can impact that person's life. Number 2, they will not allow themselves to play the joke of fear on themselves. And number 3, they set a standard for creativity by asking the kinds of questions that are bigger than anyone else. Do you think that Apple said to themselves, what can we do to be the best in the computer industry? No, of course not. They asked themselves, what can we do to be a company that every other company on the planet wants to copy? And when you change your question, it makes your brain come up with better answers. Number 4, the 4th decision that all winners make is that they choose to have thicker skin. Holy crap, when did we all become made of paper mache? When did this happen? I mean, we've built countries, we have gone to war, we've kicked ass on so many levels, we're the best hockey nation in the world, and yet someone says something negative about us, we just crumble. Someone gives us some bad feedback, we're like, I'm not meant to be creative. Holy mackerel, and it's becoming a problem. It's becoming a problem for young people too. For the parents in the room or the aunts and uncles, you got to start toughening these kids up. My goodness, I was talking to somebody that recently, there was a 16-year-old young man. He worked in a retail shop. I think actually it was in Pacific, is it Pacific Mall? Is that what it's called? Pacific Mall? Yeah? And so he worked in there, and it was his job to clean. The person came in and said, take all these things off the shelves, clean the shelves, and then put them all back in the shelves. Well, he did that. He put them all back in the shelves, and the boss came in and said, man, listen, I told you put everything back in the wrong spot. You have to put it into another spot. You got to put it back where it was. What did he do? He cried. He started crying, okay? We have to ask ourselves how fragile we are willing to become. And the next generation are becoming a bunch of wimps. And a lot of people today are a bunch of wimps. There is no way you can be a success in life without having thicker skin. There is no way you're ever going to be on stage or paint paintings that the world wants to see or be an amazing manager or be an amazing graphic designer or amazing musician without having thicker skin. My goodness, as a person who makes a living on stage and as an entrepreneur, I've had to have thicker skin than you could possibly even imagine. How many times when I was first starting out as an entrepreneur, I'd get all dressed up, I'd go down to the local cafe because I'm going to have a meeting with someone who's finally going to give me some of their time, and I'd sit there and they'd be 15 minutes late, and then a half an hour late, and then they'd be 2 hours late, and I'd realize this person's not coming. I'd get up and I'd be walking home thinking, that's amazing. I just put a suit on to go to Starbucks. That's brilliant. But that's life. Or how many times people haven't responded to my emails, or how many people haven't responded to my phone calls, how many people have told me they want to book me for a gig, we have a big long conversation and I never hear from them again, no matter how many times I keep calling them. It still happens in my career today. And auditions, oh my goodness, how many times when I've got to go up for an audition, you work on it the entire week, you get up there, you deliver some of your lines, you're maybe 10 seconds into it, and the people behind the desk say, yes, thank you, next. Like that hurts. I mean, could you imagine being with your friends one night, you're all having drinks, having a good time, and you say, hey guys, I've got this really amazing idea that I want to share with you. It's a vacation I think we should all go on. And your friends go, yeah, next. I mean, you'd probably start thinking, these are people I maybe shouldn't hang out with anymore. But as a person who goes through auditions, you go through it all the time. And how many times even today on stage, right? Like, you know, when you're making jokes, sometimes people, they don't laugh. I mean, it's happened 3 times this morning with you guys. All right? Thank God it wasn't a 4th. But this is what happens over and over again, and that is life. You know, I'll never forget the very first time that I got my very first review. Okay, I was so excited about this. These people, these bigwigs from the media industry, they'd come down to one of my shows, and we could not have asked for a better show. It was clicking and popping, everything was great. The lighting, the sound cues, nothing went wrong that night. We got a huge standing ovation from the audience. Everyone was cheering. I'm like, yes, this is the best person to have ever had come review. This is the best night. So a week later, I went to go buy the newspaper. I knew that the review was coming out that day. I took it, tucked it underneath my arm. I bought myself a coffee. I went and sat in a park called Trinity Bellwoods Park, downtown Toronto. I sat on the bench, opened up the paper, got to the part where there was the big review, picture of me about this big in the paper, full action, all right? And I look at this, and I see, and I start reading line after line after line about how bad I am and how crappy the show was. Lines like, do not waste your time with these people. I quote. And I knew that there were hundreds of thousands of people that were reading this review. In fact, I'd even emailed all my friends and said, my review is coming out on this day. Make sure you check it out. And I sat there and I put down the paper and I was in complete shock. And I'm having people walk by me. It's a beautiful sunny day. They got their dogs, right? And they're like, oh, beautiful day, isn't it? Good morning. And I'm like, yeah, go screw yourself. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'm not good. Maybe I shouldn't do this for a living. And I was really convinced that I started thinking of other job opportunities, other things that maybe I should do with my life. But then all of a sudden, about maybe 20 minutes later, after like the shock had worn off, I had a little smirk come across my face. And I thought to myself, whoa, hold on. Every single person that I look up to, every person I'm trying to be like, has a bad review. In fact, they have many bad reviews. I thought, I'm now more like the people I'm trying to be like than I was before. I thought to myself, I'm in the game! And you know what's funny about that particular story? I was doing a gig in Vegas last year, and just because of the circumstances, I had a chance to sit down and have dinner with one of the people that I'd always wanted to emulate myself after. His name's Martin Short. I'm sure many of you know Martin Short. And Martin Short and I were having dinner in Las Vegas, and I got to tell him that story. And to tell him how I wouldn't be telling you this story if I didn't have thicker skin along the way. If I didn't allow myself to get beaten up along the way. And this is something that I really want to implore all of you to remember. In that in the creative industry, you are not going to find yourself in any industry where you are more exposed to pain. You don't get this kind of pain in other industries. We set ourselves up to be in pain. And when you feel that pain, I want you to know, awesome. You're right on track. If you have not felt pain in the last little while, you're not working hard enough. If you haven't felt bad or a little, make some changes. You need to get depressed. You need to feel bad. I've gone through so many depressions, I can't even count how many times I felt depressed in my life. Times when I wanted to give up. But this is part of the game in the world of creativity, or being a manager, or being a great mom, even being a great dad. It doesn't matter what you do. If you haven't felt pain lately, you're not pushing the limits. So just realize, the thicker your skin, the more you win. And those are the first decisions that all winners make. The fifth and final decision that all winners make. We all ready to come to the end now? Yeah, feeling good still? All right, 19 people are feeling the love. Okay. The last decision that all winners make is that they aim for things they don't think they can achieve. They aim for things they do not think they can achieve. Okay, let me explain that to you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you actually, in your head, you think to yourself, I can't believe I just did that. Like, I can't believe I pulled that off. I mean, like, you went bungee jumping somewhere in South Africa and you finished and you're looking back up and you're like, I cannot believe I just did that. Or maybe you're like on a plane, you're coming back from some major epic trip that you've been traveling around the world. You look out the window and you think, I can't believe I just did that over the last 3 months. Or in some situations, you might even find yourself waking up on a Sunday morning, looking next to the person that you're with in a relationship with, going, I can't believe I pulled this off. You're way out of my league. And you know what? We all go through these things. I've gone through this a million times. I remember when I had my very first radio show, and I was at CFRB News Talk 1010. I was listening to the headphones, and they said, ladies and gentlemen, now get ready for the Stuart Knight Show. And I was like, oh my God, don't these guys know that I sometimes pick my toenails? Oh, gross, right? But it's true, right? I'm a human being like anyone else. We all do things that make us human. And I'm thinking, I've got to be so cool in front of all these individuals. And I started feeling like I didn't belong. I would imagine that there's got to be so many situations, and when people are up on stage, I was actually at the Arcade Fire concert last week, and you could just see on his face when he's looking out at the audience going, I can't believe there's 20,000 people here watching us. Or some woman's on stage going, I can't believe I'm singing here, and like, you know, just last year, I couldn't even get my own boyfriend to come out to the bar to actually see me perform. And now I'm in front of 20,000 people singing a song about that douchebag boyfriend. This is great. But we go through this. And so why do we go through this? Why do we say, I can't believe I just did that? Well, we say that because of something called the Impostor Syndrome. The Impostor Syndrome. Now, some of you may have heard the Impostor Syndrome, but for those of you who haven't, let me just share with you what it is, okay? Now, usually the Impostor Syndrome is a term that is reserved for people in the medical industry. So somebody is living their life, they're going to school, and then all of a sudden one day they graduate from, you know, becoming a doctor, and someone says, okay, you are now allowed to put this scalpel, and you're allowed to do surgery on people. Or they'll say, you know what, you are now legally allowed to prescribe medication to people that you don't even know, and they will follow your instructions. And people quite often in the medical industry, they start feeling quite nervous about that. They start thinking, oh my God, who am I to be someone who has that much responsibility? And as I said before, when you ask your brain the questions, what does the brain do? It gives you answers. But we live in a world where we have been so conditioned to give ourselves really crappy answers to that question. Because when we say, who am I to be this successful, or who am I to be that amazing artist, or who am I to be accepted by those people, the brain not. It's because of the color of your skin. It's because of the country you come from. It's because of the age you are. It's because you're a woman or a man or gay or straight, whatever. And the brain starts giving us all these ideas and we go, oh, right, good. Okay, now I know. Now I know why I don't belong. And when you find yourself in that situation where you feel like maybe you're not meant to be the most successful person in what it is that you want to do, that is when you have to do what all leaders and all winners do. And start setting goals for yourself that you do not think you can achieve. Because when you set a goal for yourself that you don't think you can achieve, two things will happen. You will start aiming for that goal, and in the process, you will hit a target that is pretty close to that goal. But that target is way higher than what you were aiming for before. But more often than not, you want to know what happens? You reach the goal. You actually reach that goal that you thought was impossible, and you prove to yourself very quickly that what you thought was impossible actually wasn't. You see, it's all in the head, and we have to prove ourselves wrong by creating goals that go above and beyond what we think is real. And we've all heard that story, Roger Bannister, the first person to ever run the 4-minute mile. Now, he was the first person to do it, but before that, everyone said it's impossible to run a mile in 4 minutes. Well, do you know the following year, 30 people did it? And then the following year after that, 100 people did it. So now you're going to tell me that human beings evolved that much in 2 years that all of a sudden now they had the physical strength to run the 4-minute mile? No. It's all of a sudden they felt it was possible. And when someone made it possible, it made it possible for them, and it pushed them to go that much further. And what you are capable of doing is so much more than what you probably think you can do. And people in the history of time are continuously reminding us of how incredible the human spirit can be and how incredible we can be as just people in general when we set goals that seem impossible. You know, a great example of this, one of my favorites, is Nelson Mandela. I mean, Nelson Mandela, here's a guy who was in jail for 27 years. Okay? 27 years. When he came out of jail, he was 75 years old. And the first thing he wanted to do was become president of South Africa. I don't know about you, but I'd be like, where's the hammock? I just lay down for a second over here. But not him, because he had always had a goal in the back of his mind that was something that he thought at the time might even be impossible. And you know, when I think about all the things that Nelson Mandela went through to get to where he eventually did get to, it's mind-blowing. And here's a story that has always resonated with me. Nelson Mandela and the other political prisoners, it was their job every single day to sit in the courtyard, and their job was to just pick with a pickaxe at great big boulders and to turn them into gravel. And then eventually the gravel would be removed, and they would do that again the next day, every single day. One day the warden walked in, and he rounded up all the political prisoners, put them in the back of a truck, and he took them out to the edge of the island. And as they got out of the truck, they were standing in front of this enormous cliff. And this cliff was made of limestone, and it was completely bright and blinding. And the warden said to these people, he said, look, folks, I'm going to tell you right now. He said, I'm going to give you a job that's going to be the most back-breaking job you've ever had in your life. You got to chip off great big pieces of limestone and carry it down all the way over there, and then you got to carry it out. And he says, it's going to be the hardest job you've ever done in your life. He goes, but I promise you, if you do this job for me, just for 6 months, give me 6 months of your time, he goes, I will find you a much better job on the island after this. And as Nelson Mandela tells that story, he says, it turns out the warden's math wasn't very good because we didn't do that job for 6 months. He says, we ended up doing that job for the next 13 years. But he still always did it knowing that he had a goal of becoming the president or a goal of changing his country. And as he kept focusing on that goal, he proved that he could get through things that he may not have actually thought he could get through if he didn't have that goal. And all he's doing is proving the human spirit is amazing when it does set itself on targets that might seem impossible. He wanted to become the president of South Africa, and he was in jail. That is a big goal to have when you are in that situation. But it's because he had that goal that he got through everything that he did. And so as you sit here right now, I challenge every one of you. Set goals for yourself that go above and beyond what you ever thought you could achieve. And give yourself that moment, that amazing moment, where you think to yourself, I can't believe I just did that. You know, as I stand here today on a Tuesday, on Thursday night, in 2 days from now, I'm going to be doing that Top 10 event that you heard James talk about. And as I'm doing that event, it was an event that I created 7 years ago, and it's 10 celebrated people, 10 minutes each on stage, and they get to help the audience, as I say, boycott what you thought. And in the beginning when I did that, I thought, there's nobody who's going to agree to be a speaker at my event. I felt like an imposter. Famous people won't want to come to my event, and so I would go to all these people that were kind of tiny little local celebrities in Toronto. I'd ask them, please, beg them, you don't have to do it, but if you could, it'd be amazing. We're raising money for a charity, it's awesome. And some people started saying yes. And then year 2, some more people started saying yes. And all of a sudden I started realizing, wow, this is actually beginning to come to something. And in 2 nights from now, Jane Fonda will be starring in my show. And that is something that when I think about that, thank you guys, thank you. And when I think about Jane Fonda said yes to me, and I still, to this day, go through that impostor syndrome as much as anybody else. But it's in those moments where I realize I just got to keep focusing on what seems to be impossible, and in the process, prove to myself that I can make it happen. And that's not just true for me, but it's true for everyone. So aim for the things that you think are unattainable, and show yourself that you can do things that are mind-blowing. And if you ever get to the point where you stop believing that's true, I'm going to ask you to remember this final thing. I want to finish off today with another little poem. You see, it's a poem that I wrote in the very first speech I ever wrote. It was a speech that at one point I couldn't even give away for free. And now I get the honor of being able to share it with all of you amazing people. Just keep going after those goals. You'll be amazed at what you can do. You see, I wrote a poem for all of you one night, and when I'm finished inside, it will feel right. It'll feel right to stand up and to live out your dreams. It will feel right to help others. You'll see what I mean. It'll feel right to have peace in times of heartache, because once through the heartache, a dream you shall make. When a dream comes alive, it's like nothing you've ever known. Your skin begins to tingle and your mind's completely blown. Inside, you feel confident and everything is in sight, and working on your goals becomes your new fight. Now, when it comes to your goals, you got to think about them every day. Because if you don't, they may quickly drift away. You may have done it today, yesterday, or tomorrow. Don't look back at your life with pain and with sorrow. Sometimes we look back and we think, oh, tisk, tisk, where would I be now if I had taken some risk? Would I be here? Would I be there? That question you might ask. Well, you might as well forget it. Because changing the past, now that's a difficult task. Start winning today by making some plans, and before you know it, you'll have all kinds of fans. And when I say fans, I don't mean the type who scream. I mean the ones who are happy that you've lived out your dreams. Too many people before us have succeeded when times got hard. When trouble came and things got rough, they never let down their guard. So if you want to feel the love and if you want to feel the glory, just think of your life as being a happy little story. In the beginning, when you were born, you were a beautiful boy or girl. And now that we have all grown up, we've got a chance to change our world. And why do I care about you so much? That question you might ask. Well, please allow me to answer that now. That's a simple task. You see, it's not a black thing or a white thing, an Asian or South Asian thing. We can all stand up and we can all just sing. Sing in the trees, sing in the breeze, sing in the sky, but sing until the day you die. I mean, do you feel salvation, and do you feel temptation? Temptation to change your nation. I mean, think of your life as being a vacation. And if you feel bad, then find the vaccination, because you can radiate, you can delegate. From inside you, it permeates. Find those things that make you fascinate. Don't you ever segregate. Avoid racial hate. We all have an appointment with life, and you do not have to be late. I'm looking out at all the faces in this room, and I'm seeing so many things. I'm seeing hard-working, non-quitting, soul-searching, money-making types of people. Inside, you're inspired. You've got the desire. You cannot be called liars, and if you are at the bottom, I know you're going to go higher. Someday, we're all going to die. But until then, by and by, let's just promise ourselves that we will always try. Don't you tell me you can't make it. Don't you ever try and fake it. It is out there. You just have to take it, and no matter what you ever do, I promise through and through, just as much as 1 + 1 = 2, I will always believe in every of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Woo. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.